McLaren has made a major decision about how Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris will fight for the championship over the final 6 races. The team is dropping their papaya rules approach and letting both drivers take the gloves off in their battle for the 2025 title. F1 photographer Kim Illman spoke to McLaren staff in Singapore and got some revealing information about the team's plans going forward. According to his conversations with team members, the Constructors' Champions are ready to let their drivers fight without interference from the pit wall. I spoke to a couple of people in the team tonight, and they suggested that the gloves definitely will be off and papaya rules. Well, probably that's gone by the wayside too, Illman said on his YouTube channel after the Singapore Grand Prix. This represents a major shift in McLaren's approach. The team has spent most of the season trying to manage both drivers fairly, but that strategy has created more problems than it solved. Now that they have secured the Constructors' Championship, McLaren can focus entirely on the drivers' title fight. The decision comes after growing frustration from Piastri about how the team has handled various situations throughout the season. The Australian driver has been on the receiving end of several team decisions that worked against his championship interests despite leading the standings. Mark Webber's influence as Piastri's manager is also playing a role in this new approach. The former Red Bull driver knows what it takes to fight for championships and won't let his client play the team game. When a world title is at stake, Illman noted that Webber will be pushing Piastri to do everything possible to win the championship. I don't think Mark Webber is going to be telling Oscar to play the team game for the rest of those 6 races. I think it's going to be gloves off, Illman explained. The media has also been creating false narratives about Piastri's behavior in Singapore. Several outlets wrongly claimed that the Australian deliberately cut off team CEO Zak Brown when Brown tried to congratulate him on the team radio after the race. This accusation was completely baseless. The reality is that Piastri had already disconnected his car systems when Brown started speaking. There was a delay between Piastri switching off and the broadcast picking up Brown's message. Only viewers at home heard the start of what Brown was saying, and the cutoff happened because of technical reasons, not because Piastri was being rude. And the truth was much simpler and completely innocent. This kind of unfair treatment of Piastri has become a pattern. Despite leading the championship for most of the season, he often gets criticized while his teammate receives more favorable coverage. The baseless accusation about the radio incident is just the latest example of this bias. F1 experts have been critical of McLaren's management approach throughout the season. Sky Sports' Ted Kravitz compared the current team to the McLaren of the Ron Dennis era and found the modern version lacking. Even Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard under the Ron Dennis McLaren. Yes, they would have the rules. Please don't knock into each other, but they certainly wouldn't have had any of this. Let's try and make it fair to each other by giving places back, and we're going to have a detailed discussion about that, Kravitz said. The Sky commentator believes McLaren's attempt to be fair to both drivers has actually created more problems. It just wouldn't have happened in the old McLaren. In trying to be fairer in a new McLaren, the warm and cozy McLaren, not the rather more every driver for himself, old-school Ron Dennis McLaren, that's part of them creating problems for themselves. Former house team principal Gunther Steiner has also weighed in on the situation. He believes McLaren should clearly back Piastri for the championship since the Australian leads the standings and has been the better driver for most of the season. Either you let them race, or if you're worried about losing the championship, you have to make the call. You have to tell one guy, and obviously that one guy is Piastri because he has got more points than Lando, Steiner said on the Red Flags podcast. Steiner warned that McLaren risks losing the championship entirely if they don't make clear decisions. If they lose the Drivers' World Championship now, then you've got 2 unhappy drivers. At least if you favor one, you've only got one unhappy driver. The former team boss pointed out that Piastri earned his championship lead through superior performance in the first 2/3s of the season. Oscar put himself in the first 2/3s of the races in a better position. Now you go and win the World Championship. McLaren team principal Andrea Steller has defended Piastri's right to speak his mind about team decisions. After the Australians' radio complaints in Singapore, Stella said, "This kind of honesty is exactly what the team want from its drivers." Obviously, Oscar made some statements while he was in the car, But that's the kind of character that we want to have from our drivers, Stella told media. They have to make their position very clear. That's what we asked them. Stella also explained the team's perspective on the Singapore incident. He noted that while Piastri saw Norris moving into him, the reality was that Norris had contact with Verstappen first and was pushed into his teammate. The team principal emphasized that these situations need to be viewed from multiple perspectives. The McLaren boss promised that the team will review the Singapore situation with both drivers just like they did after their collision in Canada earlier this season. We will have the good conversations like we had, for instance, after Canada. This review gave us the opportunity after Canada to come back. We said at the time, even more united and stronger as a team. Stella believes these discussions will help the team fine-tune their approach for the remaining races. The goal is to learn from each situation and come back stronger rather than let incidents divide the team. The championship mathematics show why McLaren's new approach makes sense. With 6 races remaining, there are still 199 points available for drivers to score. Piastri's 22-point lead over Norris might seem comfortable, but leads can disappear quickly in Formula One. More importantly, Max Verstappen sits just 63 points behind Piastri in the championship standings. The Red Bull driver has been closing the gap steadily over the past few races and showed in Singapore that he can still beat both McLaren drivers when everything comes together. The upcoming calendar includes sprint weekends at Austin and Brazil, which will offer additional point-scoring opportunities. These extra sessions could be crucial in determining the final championship outcome, especially if the fight remains close. McLaren's decision to let their drivers fight freely could backfire if it leads to more incidents between Piastri and Norris. However, the alternative of continuing with inconsistent team management was clearly not working either. The team's new approach will be tested immediately at the United States Grand Prix in Austin. This will be the first race where both drivers know they have complete freedom to race each other without team interference. Both drivers have multi-year contracts with McLaren, so they will need to maintain a working relationship regardless of how this championship battle ends. The way they handle the final 6 races could define their partnership for years to come. For Piastri, this new freedom gives him the chance to fight for his first world championship without worrying about team politics. He has led the standings for most of the season and deserves the opportunity to win the title on his own merits. For Norris, the gloves-off approach means he can race aggressively without being criticized for not following team orders. He has closed the gap to Piastri in recent races and will be confident about his chances over the final stretch. McLaren's championship hopes now depend on their drivers being able to race each other hard while still scoring enough points to keep Verstappen at bay. It's a delicate balance that will define the final chapter of what has been a remarkable season for the team. The next 6 races will show whether McLaren's new approach was the right decision or if their attempt to let both drivers fight freely ends up costing them the championship they have worked so hard to achieve.